Let's be honest, tax is not the most exciting topic to be talking about, but we need to address it. But I want to talk about why I care about it, but not that much. A lot of the conversations that I have in my role as a financial coach is really driven by tax. But when we look in the purpose of what we're trying to do with our money, tax can be incredibly misleading, because what makes most sense from a tax perspective might not actually make a hell of a lot of sense for your overall finances. The most common example of this is tax planning, which is around basically in June going, what else could I do with my money and potentially claim a tax deduction for? Had this example with Mr. P and I recently where there was a whole bunch of things that if we made additional investments or contributions into different things, we could claim a tax deduction before the end of the financial year. But if you look at our overall financial situation, we've got a lot of stuff going on this year and we actually want to be a bit more defensive with our cash. So even though making those investments would have meant that we could bring forward a tax deduction and claim it straight away, so roughly 30-40% of the money we would get back relatively quickly, in the context of our overall finances, it actually didn't make sense to do that because the tax deduction wouldn't offset the loss of cash, and therefore in a conservative environment, we're actually better off holding onto our cash and going, tax, I'd love the deduction, but not enough to actually take this step forward. So this is why I want to raise the topic of being on the front foot with tax, being mindful of how the system works, but knowing tax deductions are not the be all and end all when it comes to managing our finances. Because if we make decisions just on tax purposes or just using tax as a key driver, we might actually shoot ourselves in the foot.